WWE Tag Team Champion. You're watching WGS-TV.
Welcome to another installment of WGS-TV right here on YouTube.com/WrestleGamer and ZFXTV. I'm Double B Billy Boudreaux. Hope you guys enjoyed this gameplay because I have a very interesting topic to talk about. It was just recently released on a feature on WWE Classics On Demand called 10 Count, where it was revealed, on various topics on different points in wrestling history. And just recently, they listed their 10 greatest superstars to never win a World Heavyweight title. So I figured I'd go through this list with you guys and kind of give you my opinions on each one of them. Coming in at number 10 is the Enforcer, AA Arn Anderson. Now, Arn Anderson has had championships in the past. He was a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, a former television champion, but he never won a World Heavyweight Championship. But Arn Anderson would have made a really good world champion. He had a great in-ring work. He had great mic skills. He used... Well, some people would say... I would say he was probably one of the main anchors, aside from Ric Flair, in the Four Horsemen. Arn Anderson has always been synonymous with the Four Horsemen. He's always been a multiple-time tag team champion, whether it would be with Ole Anderson, or if it was with Tully Blanchard in the Brainbusters and over in the WWF. Wherever Arn Anderson was, he was a champion. Although he was never a World Heavyweight Champion, he was still a really good wrestler, and I believe he could have made a run as a World Heavyweight Championship. Now, we all know the circumstances that led to his retirement because of his neck injuries, which seemed to plague a lot of wrestlers as of late. But Arn Anderson's career was cut short, and I believe he still had quite a few years left in him when he had to slow down around 97, 98. So, we could have possibly seen Arn Anderson, maybe if he hadn't had to retire, possibly as a world champion, and I believe he would have made a really good champion, so I believe he really does belong on this list. Number 9 is Chief Jay Strongbow. Now, honestly, I can't say too much on Chief Jay Strongbow. I've seen a few of his matches on WWE Classics On Demand, on the NWA side of it. And some really good, he was always over on the crowd back then, and that was always a huge deal. And I don't believe he was ever a heel. I don't believe Chief Jay Strongbow was ever a heel. But I'm going to save my opinions on Chief Jay Strongbow because, I want to, if I was more familiar with his work and what he's done in the past, then I would have some opinions on him. But coming in at number 8 on this list is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Hall of Famer, a longtime WCW television champion. He was always a main eventer. He's one of the guys who was like Jerry Lawler. He used the pile driver as his signature move. I remember he had a long-standing rivalry with Dustin Rhodes over in WCW, and he held that television champion for the longest time. And he was like Steven Regal, like William Regal. He was one of the mainstays around the television championship. And he, just like with Arn Anderson, how he made it work earlier in his career, he made the television title work too. There are, certain wrestlers can make certain titles work. And that was one of the things they did back in the day. And Paul Orndorff made that television title work for him. Just like Arn Anderson made it work for him, and William Regal made it work for him. While William Regal is not on this list. Why? I don't know, but still. I believe he could have used an honorable mention. But WWE did not honorable mention him. They listed Killer Kowalski and Lance Storm as honorable mentions. But as far as Paul Orndorff is concerned, yeah, he could have made a good world champion. If they would have had him run with the World Championship just like they had him run with the Television Championship over in WCW, then yeah, he could have had a really good run. WWF Championship, World Wrestling Federation title, maybe not. Maybe not, because NWA, WCW, and WWF were definitely two different organizations back in the day. They both had different ideas and different ideals as to people who should be champion and the way they should run. And apparently they saw Paul Orndorff in WCW as a viable person to really put over the television title. And he definitely did that. Paul Orndorff really made that television title a really good, prestigious title in the early 90s. Number 7, Nikita Koloff. Nikita Koloff, wow. I remember a lot of his work in the WWF. I remember a lot of his stuff. He was part of the Bolsheviks. He was a really great star. And he could have made a good champion. Nikolai Koloff, my hat's off to you. I'm trying to remember a lot of your work. And Nikita Koloff could have made a good champion. Things just happened. Number 6 was Junkyard Dog Jyd. He's trained a lot of people. A lot of the wrestlers you see in GCW here in Louisiana as JYD. And he could have made a great championship. But here's the thing about it. Here's the thing about JYD. And a lot of people can, when you look at a world championship in professional wrestling, they feel that some people need a world championship just to put themselves over, get themselves over on the crowd. But here's this was the unique talent of JYD. He did not need it. Yeah, he could have made a great champion. Don't get me wrong. Junkyard Dog could have made a great world heavyweight champion. But the thing is, JYD and the way he did his career, he did not need it. He was that good that he did not need a world heavyweight championship to get over on the fans. Whether it was in NWA or in the WWF, he did not need a world championship. That's how good he is. You can always tell how good a wrestler is just by the fact that if they needed a title or not. Now, we'll admit, yeah, if they put a title on you, that kind of signifies that the company trusts you to carry them. JYD, to me, was honestly in a position in his career where he did not need it and probably didn't want it, to be honest with you. But he could have made a great champion. Number 5 in this list is Scott Hall. I've got some ifs and maybes about that. Now, yes, as Razor Ramon, he was a good Intercontinental Champion, a 3-time Intercontinental Champion. In WCW, he was a multiple-time Tag Team Champion with Kevin Nash and the Outsiders. But as going off on his own and becoming a World Champion, and knowing where it led to with him, I don't know if Scott Hall could have made a good champion. Now don't get me wrong, Scott Hall was an amazing talent back in the day. But here's the thing, that's back in the day. Nowadays, it's just not so much. I don't want to offend any Scott Hall fans out there, but come on, give me a break. Number 4 was one of the greatest wrestlers I've known. I'm probably going to get some slack for that, but he was one of the first wrestlers I started following when I was a kid, and that's Jake the Snake Roberts, the inventor of the DDT. He's had, I have his DVD, the Pick Your Poison DVD. He had a great story, a lot of classic matches. A lot of fans just remember his work in the WWF, but they kind of highlight a lot of his stuff when he was in the NWA. And it was a lot of good work, too. He also kind of tells the story of how he invented the DDT, which was, by the way, an accident, to be honest with you, is what he said. But the man was never a champion. He was never an Intercontinental Champion. He was never a tag champion that I can recall. And the man could have made it. He's the innovator of the DDT, which is probably one of a move that is widely used in professional wrestling today. We would not have the DDT if it was not for Jake the Snake Roberts. And here's the thing. Jake Roberts also had amazing mic skills. He had that psychology of how to work the audience. Whether he was face or heel, he had that knowledge of what to say and what to do to put himself over or anybody else over. A lot of people remember his heel turn in the WWF when he was against the Ultimate Warrior. And I kind of feel bad because he actually had to work with the douchebag, but he had to do his best because Ultimate Warrior could not cut a promo back in the day, instead of going or something like that. Jake Roberts as a champion really would have been an exciting concept. Because considering the positioning on this list, WWE has him listed as number 4. That's how good Jake Roberts was. Now, I believe he could have been bumped up to a couple of notches, but I believe number 4 is a really good spot for him. I'm just trying to think of the reasoning why Jake Roberts really never had a championship. But you can't really define how good a professional wrestler is by the amount of championships he's won. Well, yeah, it kind of tells that when, like I've already said it with JYD, sometimes wrestlers really don't need a World Heavyweight Championship to show how good they are. Jake Roberts probably really didn't need it. I'm pretty sure he's probably been offered in his career. He was probably offered quite a few times to have runs with the championships, but it just never panned out. And I believe Jake the Snake Roberts would have been a really good champion. I'm just trying to figure, I'm trying to imagine in my head, try to picture in your head as I do, how these guys are and how they would be as champions in their respective companies. Number 3, legend in himself, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, the first ever WWF or WWE European champion. A former tag team champion. WWE had enough faith in him to put the first European championship on him, even though it's now a defunct title. They did have enough trust in him to put that title on him and try to make it work, and he did. Even though it wasn't a very long reign, he still had a lot of significance to the European Championship. And he was also a tag team champion with the late great Owen Hart, which is why I believe let me just go ahead and say this right now. If the WWE could have listed Owen Hart in this list, I guarantee you, he would probably be number 2 or number 1. Honestly. But we all know the circumstances with Owen Hart and the whole situation. So, yeah, Owen Hart should... Honestly, in my opinion, Owen Hart should have at least been honorable mentioned. Or at least put in this list. And he's not. Thanks to his wife. That's all I'm going to say. But British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith would have been a great champion. I mean, he had a lot of great runs at the championship. I remember the feud he had with Shawn Michaels back in the Attitude Era over the WWE Championship. He had some phenomenal matches with HBK and had great runs at it. But he was a great European champion. He made that work. He was a great tag champion. And he could have been a really good World Heavyweight Champion. I believe he might have been a Hardcore Champion, too, if I'm not mistaken, because he did come back to the WWE around 99 or 2000, and I think he might have been a Hardcore Champion. I'm going to have to check my notes on that and see if I can find out. Because I do remember him, for some reason, I do remember him like having a Hardcore title. I'm not entirely positively sure, but I do remember him being a former Hardcore Champion. But they put a lot of like secondary titles on him and to kind of make it work, and he did. And he was a great champion, even though he was never a world champion. This man also would have been a great world heavyweight champion. Number 2 in the 80s would have to have been considered one of the best heels in the business, and that's saying a lot. But this man flat out knew how to make you hate him, and he did it to perfection. And I'm not talking about Kurt Hennig. I'm talking about the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase had his own title back in the day. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, back in the 80s, $1 million, of course, at that time, considered to be a lot of money. And he kind of used that gimmick to flaunt it around, to make people hate him, and he even got to the point where he created his own title belt, which is now the infamous $1 Million title. And for those of you, let me give you guys a very quick history lesson here, because I kind of feel that it plays a significant role into this list and what I'm talking about on this commentary. Around WrestleMania 4 time, they had to have a championship tournament. And $1 Million Man was in the finals of it, but then there was an event following WrestleMania 4 where Andre the Giant was taking on, I believe it was Hulk Hogan. It might have been around that time. And, it was a big screw job. One of the big controversies. Hulk Hogan, had popped up his shoulder, but the referee still counted the 3 and awarded Andre the Giant the championship. And then Andre surrendered it to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And at that point, for like maybe a minute or so, $1 Million Man was the champion until they got the whole ruling from the WWE president at the time, Jack Tunney, that the WWE Championship, this is what caused the tournament, to be honest with you. Now that I talk about it and I get it out of me, I'm kind of have my time periods backward. This is kind of what caused the WWE Championship tournament around WrestleMania 4, was the fact of this whole incident that happened with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Andre the Giant, and Hulk Hogan. So even though he says he was never a world heavyweight champion, they're kind of right. They're kind of right on it. But Ted DiBiase could have been a great heel champion for the WWE. But he suffered an injury, which kind of cut his career short, and then he went into managing. He was a really good manager too. He had the $1 Million Corporation. He had a lot of good heel wrestlers with them. He was I believe he was a former tag team champion too, around the early 90s with IRS, when they were known as Money Incorporated. So Ted DiBiase could have made a great heel champion, but here's the guy that's topping the WWE's list. Now, I don't disagree with what they put on here, because at the top of their list, it's Roddy Piper, the Hot Rod. The guy was never a world champion. He was an Intercontinental Champion, a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, if I'm not mistaken. But, he had a lot of runs. A lot of people remember, the huge feud that Roddy Piper had with Hulk Hogan in the mid-'80s, and it also over the WWE Championship at the time. Roddy Piper would have made a great world champion. You know, the guy was always great on the mic. You know, just like Jake the Snake Roberts had that psychology on how to work the audience, I believe Roddy Piper also possessed that same ability, because he knew what to say and what to do to get a reaction out of the crowd, which is why Roddy Piper is now in the Hall of Fame. In fact, if I'm not missing this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Half this list. About half this list are people that are in the Hall of Fame. And the others, well, 6 rather, 6. There are 6 people. 6 out of these 10 names are in the Hall of Fame. Why British Bulldog's not in there, I don't know. Jake the Snake Roberts should be a name coming up soon if WWE wants to pull the stick out of their rear end, but that'll probably be another video for another day. But as far as Roddy Piper is concerned, you know, I'm just trying to picture of what he would be as a world heavyweight champion, whether it be a face or a heel, and he would have been good. He would have been good. I mean, he knew how to put someone over, whether it's himself or his opponent. He always knew how to put him over, you know. And I can give you guys a perfect example. You know, one of the programs I love watching on WWE Classics on Demand is Primetime Wrestling, which is what the Monday night program was before Monday Night Raw started. So, and after Bobby the Brain Heenan kind of left the show in a sense, Roddy Piper took over as the co-host, and just recently there was a situation between him and the late great ravishing Rick Rude, and it was very interesting. He always knows how to get a rise out of somebody, you know, for the audience, for the fans, and you know, he did that to perfection. The guy was always entertaining, he was always comedic, and he would have been a great champion. And so I kind of agree with the way they put this list. You know, sometimes, you know, there's something about the structure of the list I don't agree with. There are a few names that I feel should belong in there. Like a name I've already mentioned before, Owen Hart, I believe should have been included in this list. You know, I'm just trying to think of some other names here. I was about to say Tatanka, but then again, I'm not so sure. But there are a lot of great names in the WWF and WCW who were never champion. But Charlie should have had a run as World Heavyweight Champion. I'll tell you what, if the WWE hadn't done what they did with RVD in 2006, guaranteed his name would have been on here. Guaranteed, hands down, his name would have been on here. But then again, he also moved into TNA and became a champion over there as well. So, there are a lot of great names that are out there. Again, let me go very quickly to reiterate what's on this list. Arn Anderson, number 10. Number 9, Chief Jay Strongbow. Number 8, Paul Orndorff. Number 7, Nikita Koloff. Number 6, Junkyard Dog. Number 5, Scott Hall. Number 4, Jake the Snake Roberts. Number 3, British Bulldog. Very quickly, if I could, I would scratch out Scott Hall's name and put Owen Hart. You know, not to disrespect Scott Hall, but Owen Hart, I believe, was better than Scott Hall. But number 4, Jake the Snake Roberts. Number 3, the British Bulldog. Number 2, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And number 1, the rowdy one, the hot rod, Roddy Piper. So, I want to know, what do you guys think about this list? You know, what are your thoughts on it? And can you think of any other names who have never been a world champion who you believe that should be on this list? Please tell me why. Put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and favorite this video. And don't forget to subscribe to youtube.com/WrestleGamer and youtube.com/ZFXTV Network. So with that being said, I'm Billy Boudreaux saying thank you very much for watching.